In my family, our big holiday celebration is Christmas Eve for the Italian-American Feast of the Seven Fishes. It's an incredibly savory meal with lots of antipasti and, of course, tons of fish. So this year, for Christmas Day, I thought it would be fun to create an indulgent menu full of sweet treats that you can enjoy all day long. For an afternoon snack, Mandel bread, a nutty biscotti-style cookie perfect for dipping in coffee. And finally, for dessert, my family's ultimate holiday treat, rainbow cookies. This Mandel bread recipe comes from my mom's side of the family. This cookie's a cross between a biscotti and a shortbread of sorts. It's only baked once, so it stays nice and tender, and it's super delicious. The first thing I need to do is to chop up some walnuts. You can do this in a mini processor or even by hand, but growing up as a kid, we always had one of these hand crank contraptions. Almonds are traditional in Mandel bread, but this is how we always made it, and I really love the flavor. So 1 cup. I think I'm gonna have to do this in a couple of batches. And you just fill the top half, and then just crank away. And it comes with a lid, but that's no fun. You can't see what you're doing then. I like when it gets close to being finished and you can kind of just see the mechanism. And right onto a bowl. Now for the rest of the dry ingredients. 2 cups of all-purpose flour, a half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Right on in. Then just mix it to combine. Make sure those walnut pieces are evenly distributed. And that's the dry ingredients. Now for the wet ingredients. 2 large eggs right into a stand mixer. And a half a cup of sugar. And with the paddle attachment, we just want to cream this until it starts to lighten in color. The eggs have slightly lightened in color. It's a really nice homogeneous mixture. And now we're going to drizzle in a half a cup of vegetable oil. Last but not least, some vanilla, 1 teaspoon. Always really good vanilla, like Ina says. That looks great. And then just add your dry ingredients. That's it. I have a half sheet pan that's lined with parchment. And now we're going to shape our cookies. We're going to create 2 logs that are about 2 by 10 inches long. And place it right on the parchment. And you can see that it's a pretty sticky dough at this point. So you don't want to saturate your fingers, but get them moist enough and then gently start working the dough into those logs. You really don't want the ends to be tapered so that later on when you cut them, you have uniform cookies. The logs will spread a little bit in the oven, so leave space between the sheet pan and between each log. About 1.5 inches to 2 inches. These look good. Now for the fun part, we get to decorate our cookies. I'm going to use sanding sugar. This is what my mom used to do when I was a kid. We would always color one with red sanding sugar and the other with green. But you can use any oven-safe sprinkle, something that won't melt. So just a gentle sprinkle. And I go a bit heavy-handed because these cookies will spread a little bit and you want to make sure that they have some sprinkles in every bite. And then some green. That's it. So these are ready to go into the oven. Going to bake them at 350 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes until the edges are lightly golden brown and the cookies are set. Our cookies are baked. I've had them resting for about 5 minutes. They're still on the hot side, but this is when you want to cut them so that you get nice, clean cuts. So carefully peel the log off of the parchment, transfer it to a cutting board, and then I like to cut them into 3/4 inch pieces. I use a serrated knife and I kind of give a sawing motion, and once I'm inside, just straight down, and you get nice, clean cuts. At this point, transfer them to a cooling rack to cool completely. And I'll do the same with my green log. I have a lot of fun Christmas decor in my house, so might as well use them up and play around a little bit now. Once cooled, you can store these cookies in an airtight container for up to 2 weeks, but they never last that long in my house. Just like Grandma used to make. Up next, I am making the quintessential Italian-American cookie. Some people refer to them as rainbow cookies, others 7 layers. I call them rainbow cookies because mine technically are only 6 layers, but I promise they're super delicious. They are a bit involved, but that's what makes it so fun. It's the holidays, grab your friends, grab your families, and let's do this together. Except for me, who will do this by myself right now. I promise you, if you've ever had the store-bought ones and you think they're good, no. These are going to change your life and leave emotional scars. Let's get started. We're gonna start easy with the dry ingredients, and guess what? There's only 2, so you can't mess it up. 2 cups of all-purpose flour, with this recipe, exact measurements are super important. And then just 1 teaspoon of salt. Whisk that to combine. We're making a sponge cake here, so you don't need any leavener. Egg whites are what's going to give this its texture and rise later on. I'm adding 8 ounces of unsalted butter right on in there. And then we're going to start building flavor, first by using some almond paste. And just kind of massage it a little bit with your fingers, just to soften it even more, and add it to the stand mixer. This added step will help eliminate clumps later on. The last little bit. To this, we need to add some sugar, 3/4 cup. And with the paddle attachment, we're going to cream this until it's light and fluffy, and we want to get rid of as many clumps of almond paste as possible. This looks perfect. So we need to separate our yolks from the whites. Take your time. Now you want to add the yolks one at a time, allowing each to fully emulsify before adding the next. Next, I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. This is really going to help pump up that almond flavor, and a little of this goes a really long way. Okay, that looks great, super fluffy still. And now, just add the dry ingredients. So I have my whites in a clean mixing bowl, and this time we're using the whisk attachment. And just start beating these over a medium-low speed until they get frothy. Once you have a nice layer of froth like this, you want to start sprinkling in a 1/4 cup of sugar. Once you have a solid base for your meringue, you can crank up the speed a little bit to get to medium peaks. Okay, these look great. Now the fun part really begins. I'm going to make a little bit of room for myself. So now I have my 2 mixtures. I'm going to take 1/2 of it and add it to this batter to lighten it. We call it the sacrifice. I hope we have some dramatic music for that. So that's completely combined. And now the remaining whites go right on in. And just gently fold these egg whites in. Scrape down, cut through, and scrape down all the way to the bottom, folding it over to incorporate. Okay, that's nice and combined. Now we need to divide this batter into thirds. For that, I like to use a kitchen scale. If you have one, you can weigh the whole batter and then just divide it by 3, and that's how you know what to use. It's about 350 grams. Now we're going to have some fun. We're going to color these bad boys up. 1 red and 1 green because they're Italian and it's Christmas. Just like the almond extract, a little coloring goes a long way. And then gently fold the color in. That does it for the green. Now for the red. Same thing. 2 little dots and repeat. Fold it in. Next up, we're going to put it in some pans. Working one color at a time, place it on the prepared sheet pan, and using a small offset spatula, just spread it evenly onto the pan. Take your time, work it into all the corners, creating a nice even layer. I'm going to show you something I learned in culinary school when making sponge cakes. You want to take your thumb, slide it into the bottom of the pan, and now just run it all the way around to create a moat. You can see how there's this little space in between the pan and the batter. And what this does is it creates a thicker edge that kind of melts back down when it bakes so that the whole thing bakes evenly. Same with the white. These look gorgeous. Now we need to bake them. We're going to do it in a 350-degree oven for 12 to 14 minutes. It's really important to keep an eye on them. We don't want the cakes to take on any color. Look how beautiful our sponge cakes are. After 10 minutes, remove them from the pan carefully. They're very delicate, and allow them to cool completely so that we can begin to assemble our rainbow cookies. I'm going to start with the green layer and carefully flip it over so that the bottom is facing up, and carefully peel away the parchment. And we're using two different jams, apricot and seedless raspberry. So the apricot goes on top of the green because we want the red on the red. It's all very scientific. And then just gently spread the jam over the layer, allowing it to kind of fall into those cavities, going all the way to the edge. Next comes the white layer. So same thing, working really carefully. Line it up and flip it over the jam. Give it a nice, gentle push to begin adhering those two layers together. And peel off that paper. And the raspberry jam. Smells so good. Spread it nice and evenly over the white layer. Don't worry about the edges, we're going to trim them just like that. And last but not least, the red layer. Peel the paper back and just give it a gentle press into place. Then grab a spare sheet of parchment, cover it up, and you want to press it down to weigh it down to glue those layers together. I just like to use a little stack of cookbooks. Right on top. Now the waiting game begins. Into the fridge overnight to really seal those layers together. Time to take this from what basically looks like a cake and make them cookies. At this point, we have a very rough edge, so I'm just going to trim it to make a nice, clean edge. Now, don't you dare throw these out. These are snacks. I even crumble them up sometimes and make ice cream with it. Straight down, clean slices. And there you have it. Look how beautiful our layers are. Now I'm going to rotate this and cut it into 4 long ways. Now it's time to make the chocolate glaze. I'm going to start with a bowl with 12 ounces of chocolate. These aren't chocolate chips. These are really good couverture chocolate or fèves that you can buy in a high-end supermarket. To that, I'm adding 1/3 cup of heavy cream and 1 tablespoon of corn syrup. This is going to give us a nice, shiny finish. Get that all in there. Now I'm going to melt the chocolate in the microwave, nuking it in 30-second intervals, stirring in between until we have a gorgeous, silky glaze. I'm going to make sure that chocolate is completely melted. We have a nice, smooth glaze. It is on the thick side, but you can see how it has this gorgeous sheen to it, and it's ready to go. I have a half sheet pan lined with parchment, and now I'm going to place a wire rack on top, and that's for our glaze to fall through those holes. Going to work 1 strip at a time. Place it on the rack, and then spoon about 1/4 of the glaze right on top. You want to work on the quick side here. Now just spread it right over the top, letting it drizzle down the sides. Okay, now take a larger spatula and just run it underneath. Carefully put it on your cutting board. Before the ganache sets too much, you want to cut these into the individual cookies. So I just cut a sliver off the edge. That's a sacrificial piece that I will taste later. And then cut them into 3/4 inch pieces and transfer them to a parchment-lined sheet pan. Periodically, wipe your knife clean of chocolate so that you get nice, clean sides. And then repeat. And there you have it. It's been a day, it was a process, but now it's done, and all that's left to do is enjoy them and share it with friends and family. But first, I think I deserve one after all of my hard work. These cookies are truly a masterpiece. If you have some time and some patience this holiday season, I really hope that you make these to share with your friends and family. Have a very saucy Christmas. I think we're all set for Christmas Eve.
Yeah, we're all set.
Yeah,
Merry Christmas. Enjoy
Merry
your holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.